if you enter that conversation with, I am going to help this person, whether I sell them or not. That's a key sentence there. Whether I sell them or not, I am going to help them. If this product's not a fit for them, I'm going to find them a product that will. I'm going to put them in touch with someone that's going to help them. If you lead with helping, you will not only sell more, you'll feel better about yourself, you'll get more reviews, and your selling universe will become better because things come back to you.
So hello everybody, welcome to the Be Yourself podcast, the podcast on expressing our true selves. Today I'm joined by Allan Langer, who is an author of the best-selling book, The 7 Secrets to Selling More by Selling Less, the ultimate guide to reinventing your sales life. He's a coach. He runs an academy, the 7 Secrets Sales Academy, and he also runs a podcast with an interesting name, Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. So Allan, hello, how are you, man?
Hi, Chris. How are you? Thanks for inviting me on the show.
No problem. It's my pleasure. So, Allan, how did the start of the week go? It's Monday. A lot on your schedule. Just want to start by asking, how's everything going, and where are you right now?
Things are going good. It was a busy Monday. I am in East Greenwich, Rhode Island right now, and you are. Let's see. Gave a 2-hour workshop this morning. Then I had an in-person meeting and then 2 Zooms right before you. So I hopefully will not, collapse in the middle of this podcast, but I'm pretty good. I had some water. I had a little shot of espresso, so I should be good.
Man, I mean, actually, when I've been researching you, I spotted one thing that I really, really admired, that even though you do have this sort of niche, this one particular direction where you're going with your sales and the main wisdom that you impart into other people, it looks like you are a jack of all trades in a way, because you are a great podcast host, you're a great speaker. I checked some of your stuff on YouTube. I checked some of the feedback that people give about you. And I'm trying to always understand how a person who's got so many talents is able to, settle down and find something, one thing that you're gonna tie your life to. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about your background and how did you wind up being a sales coach, or at least like someone who connected your life to sales.
Yeah, it's an interesting story because my first professional job out of college I worked for college athletics, marketing, and I did marketing and fundraising for college athletics. I worked at Montclair State University in New Jersey. Then I worked at Columbia University in New York City. And I was always doing the media relations. I was running the sporting events. I was running the press boxes. I was doing fundraising at Columbia. And it was a fun, sexy job. Anyone that heard that's what I did, they're like, oh my God, what a great job. You get to be in the press box. You get to travel. And yes, it was a fun job. But after a while, a job becomes a job, and it didn't pay very well. And I got completely burnt out. And after doing it for almost 15 years, I was having dinner with a good friend of mine, and I was telling him I was just I needed to get out. I needed to find something else to do, but I had no idea what to do. And he said to me,
15 years at that point, right?
15 years, yeah. So I got the job very young. I was 21 when I got my job. So I was 36. Wow. And he said to me, why don't you get into sales? And I said, sales? Who the hell wants to be a salesman, right? And it's a pretty common thought process with the perception of salespeople. And his response was, you're already in sales. You're doing fundraising. You're selling season tickets. You're trying to get stories in newspapers. You're doing all of these things. If you were actually in a sales role, you'd probably kill it, is what he said. So that's what I did. I went from there to selling sunrooms. I was visiting people in their homes and trying to sell them sunrooms, and then roofing, siding, windows. I got into construction sales. And then finally I ended up at Anderson Windows, and I was their number one sales rep for many, many years. And I was in sales like from that point, well over 20 years. And then 2019, I decided to write a book about it. The book became a bestseller, which was what the surprise. And I parlayed that into speaking engagements and now my sales academy where I try to help companies and sales teams sell better and sell more.
One of the common themes of my podcast is pivotal changes, like some moments in life where people, decided to take a completely different direction in their life. Mm-hmm. So for you, you didn't take a different direction per se, but you didn't actually know that you were in sales already. So at that point, right, you realize that that's what I can like call myself now. What this is like an official name that I can give to what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. You're right. It wasn't completely different from what I was doing physically, but in my mind, it was 100%. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not in sales. I didn't know I was actually selling anything. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they're in sales. Everyone's in sales. Every day of your life, you're trying to sell something or convince somebody of something. Parents are the biggest salespeople, and even kids are salespeople trying to sell their parents. So, but you're right. Once you get to the point where you're like, wow, now I am officially a salesperson. It says that on my business card.
Yeah.
Now do I have to act like a salesperson? Do I have to act differently? What do I do? And it becomes a lot of self-process and figuring out what you're supposed to do. And it was a journey for me to become, the salesperson I was and then writing the book about it.
So there is no shame in calling yourself a salesperson when you, I believe, associated it with right values. Because there's a lot of stigma associated with salesmen. And we all know about ABC, always be closing, outdated concept. And I read it on your website that you teach entrepreneurs and business people to solve instead of sell, help instead of hinder, and be selfless instead of selfish. Is this real? I mean, isn't this too romantic? Can you elaborate on that? Like, does it really work?
Yeah. So the number, my book is called The 7 Secrets, and the first secret is I'll share it with you guys. It's I call it make the switch. You have to switch your mindset from selling to helping, because basically the way salespeople are trained is they're trained to get in front of that prospect, and the number one goal is to sell that prospect, to sell their product or service. Which, yes, you're supposed to do that. But if you lead with that, if that's your mindset, I have to sell this at all cost, or I have to sell this to hit my quota or hit my commission, you're going to be a very mediocre salesperson, because you're leading with an inherently selfish thought. If you enter that conversation with, I am going to help this person, whether I sell them or not. That's a key sentence there. Whether I sell them or not, I am going to help them. If this product's not a fit for them, I'm going to find them a product that will. I'm going to put them in touch with someone that's going to help them. If you lead with helping, you will not only sell more, you'll feel better about yourself, you'll get more reviews, and your selling universe will become better because things come back to you. But if you just lead with, I need to sell this because I want to make my commission and I want to make my bonus, that's just not the right mindset to have.
So it creates the long-term return. So you can never estimate how you being selfish, how you being helpful going to turn out and when. But according to you, it will always bring the result. You just have to be patient. Is that what you're saying?
Right. You have to be patient, but also sometimes it happens right away. You just never know, because let's just say I tell people that I train, one of the best reviews or customer reviews you can get is like, you know what, I met Chris the other day. The product wasn't for me, but he was really great. That's a great review, because they're going to recommend you to someone who actually may need your product, rather than I didn't buy Chris's product because he was an ass, and they're never going to recommend you at all. So if you leave them with a good experience, sales is all about recommendations and referrals and your reputation. So you always want to leave that prospect / customer with a great experience, because that will always turn out positive for you. So, yep, the more you do it, the longer you do it, the more referrals and the more, foundation that you're going to build. But sometimes you can get a referral the very next day if you do it the right way. So, yes, it's a long game, but I look at it as an annuity. You just kind of keep putting this goodwill in the bank from a sales standpoint, and then all of a sudden this stuff will come back to you very quickly.
Can you tell me about favorite cases in your experience being a coach?
I will tell you, I thought you were going to ask me an example of that. So can I tell you a story about what I just said first and then the coaching thing? Sure. So when I was selling windows, I'm going to tell you a story on how doing the right thing and not leading with selling is a very good thing to do. So I had this appointment at this house, and it were two older sisters. They lived there. They were probably in their 70s. And I walked in, and they said that they needed a new bay window that sticks out of the house in the back of their house. And I went, looked at it. It was a really big window, would have been about $10,000 or $15,000. And they literally pretty much had their checkbook out ready to buy. Like, we need a new bay window. This one is really drafty. But when I looked at it, the two side windows, both of them were off of their tracks. So I snapped them back into their tracks, and voila, no more draft. Now, as a salesperson, I had two choices there. One, don't fix the draft and sell them a $15,000 bay window, basically rip them off. Or two, fix it and do the right thing. So I decided I'm not going to sell these two older ladies who were probably living on a fixed income, and they would have to finance the window. I'm not going to sell them a window. I'm going to fix it. So I fixed the window, and they were blown away. They're like, "We don't need a window." I'm like, "No." I said, "You want to spend 15 grand on a new window? This one's fine. It's okay." And they're like, "No, we didn't want to spend that much money." Great. That's all. You guys have anything else I can do for you? She's like, "No." They were like hugging me. And then to put the cherry on the top of the cake, as I'm walking out, they had this old metal storm door that was like dragging on the ground. It was like hard to open. So I said, "Man, how long has this door been like this?" She's like, "Oh, as long as we've been here. We hate that door. It just drives us crazy." So I went to my truck. I got some tools and I've got some WD-40. And within 10 minutes, I fixed the door for them. Now the door opened and closed beautifully. So I bid them farewell and I left. About, I don't know, 4 months later, my phone rings. I don't recognize the number. Turns out it's the son of one of the ladies. He said, "Hi, Allan. My name is Joe. I've been meaning to call you. You went to my aunt's house and my mother's house about 4 months ago, and I wanted to call you to, one, say thank you for not selling them a $15,000 bay window. They could not have afforded that. And two, thank you so much for fixing that damn screen door. They have been talking about you for 4 months at every function we've ever had. So thank you." I was like, "No problem." And then he said, "By the way, I need windows." I went to his house, and it was the largest residential window sale I ever made in my career from that guy. And it simply was because I did the right thing. I helped them instead of sold them, and it came back to me. So that's a good story about that.
It all paid off. You know, I think as human beings, we're so addicted to instant gratification, to this hit of dopamine. And sales, you know, a complete sale is a hit of dopamine. I think my next question to you is, how did you develop this patience? Were you always like that? Or were you always a person who wasn't after instant results? You know, because a lot of traders, Wall Street guys, I think they feed off these quick results. You know, and to be like that is pretty, you know, unprecedented. It's. I mean, there's not a lot of people like that. So, what do you attribute your patience to, and your willingness, and even human nature inside of you to actually think about helping before, you know, selling? How did it come about? Like, Have you ever thought about this?
Well, I think a lot about, I don't know if I've ever thought about my patience, but I've always thought about how you're always in control of your own emotions, right? I even said this morning at a workshop I did. I said, there's two things in life that you can control, only two, your attitude and your effort. And your attitude in sales is everything. So many salespeople get down, they get upset, they want the instant gratification, they go 0 for 10 on the last 10 appointments, and they feel terrible about themselves. And rightfully so, because sales is not an easy gig. It's just not. You have to have a thick skin, and you have to have the attitude that I am going to find someone to help today rather than sell. So actually changing that mindset to the helping mindset will help you with your patience. Because if you just go into it saying, I have to sell, and you don't, you feel pretty crappy if you don't sell. But if you leave that appointment knowing that you helped them, even if they didn't buy, you just feel a little better about yourself. And that gets you better to the next appointment. Because what happens in sales, it starts to snowball. Whether you're on a streak and you sell 5 or 6 or 7 in a row, or you're in a slump, that slump turns into the next appointment, turns into the next one. And then you can get, all of a sudden you're 0 for 15 and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? But instead of worrying about selling, you think about helping, and it turns you around a little quicker. So to answer your question, I've never thought about myself being patient. It's just a matter of, you got to have a thick skin. You got to be okay with rejection. You got to be okay with people, not wanting to talk to you. Cause I talk about that in my book. Like salespeople, people don't want to talk to us. They may need my product, but they don't want to have the conversation. They needed windows, but they didn't want the sales guy to come over. So you have to understand going in that that's what people are thinking about. And if you become that anti-salesperson, that person that they're not expecting, and then you help them more, you'll sell. Your sales career will be a lot more ups than downs for sure.
I'm going to tell you a little bit of my own experience.
Sure.
I actually, in the entire 2023, I live in Ukraine. My name is Sergey. Chris is actually like the nickname that I used in the past when I tried to hide my identity.
Your email said Sergey, but that's okay.
Yeah. So I actually wanted to hide my identity because the first business that we built with my co-founder, we were selling to the US exclusively. And at that time, we were sort of ashamed, to use our own names. We thought that the fact that we were Ukrainians would hurt us, Now especially with the things that transpired recently, now I'm a proud Ukrainian and I want to grow my business and I want to give more jobs to my fellow Ukrainians. But I just recently started a new business, which is a video production and service. But the entire 2023, I actually was trying to become like a business English communication coach. And I was actually giving so much. This is like the drastic example. Maybe you can confront me here or work with me, because I was actually giving so much. I posted content every single day on TikTok, on Instagram, and I was giving away so much stuff about business communication and passing job interviews in English and sales too, and I didn't close that many deals. To be honest with you, I didn't have customers at all, Allan. So I think that just putting things out there and expecting something to happen is not a valid approach as well. You understand? This is like this is like a really extreme opposite the plan that I took, where I was actually not even trying to sell. I was just giving stuff away, and I thought that I would just at some point would give like a bunch of requests, which didn't happen. Maybe it was a problem of a product market fit, probably it was the product market fit, because Ukrainians don't really need to be taught business in English. They just want to be taught English in the first place. They don't need like business knowledge.
Right,
you know,
right.
But have you ever gone for a while, just because you produce so much content? You have podcasts, you wrote the book. I can't even imagine how much energy and patience you need to write a book. So did you ever have a stretch where you're just giving out so much, and there is no return on this investment? And how do you keep going? What helps you keep going, keep your head above water?
Yeah, it's a great question, because as an entrepreneur or solopreneur or whatever you want to call me, you try to follow the people who have been successful. You try to do the right things, and content creation and putting yourself out there and giving away value is one of the proven methods of doing it. But they don't teach you that that's only not even half the battle. You can produce content, but if you don't help people find how they can work with you, they're not going to work with you. You can't just expect people to reach out to you out of the blue because they saw a great post that you did. Now, there are lurkers out there that'll watch you for a year or two who may eventually reach out, but you have to help them be proactive. People will go where you lead them to go. People will answer questions that you ask. But if you just leave it up to that person, they're not going to hit the buy now button. That's why call to actions are there. That's why when you do content creation, you have to follow it up with some way for that person to get triggered and say, you know what? I've been following this guy for 6 months. I love his content. And now he's doing this course, or now he's like reaching out and asking and filling out a survey, whatever it is, get them to do something to get closer to actually working with you. But I had to live that as well. Like, I was giving away, I'll give you an example. At the end of 2021, I did 31 TikTok videos in a row, 31 days. I called it 31 to end 21. So on December 1st, I did a TikTok video every day until New Year's Eve of December 31st. And I was thinking, my TikTok's going to blow up. I'm doing 31 in a row. I tell you what, I got nothing because I just did the videos.
Yes,
I didn't do anything else.
I've been there.
Yeah, I didn't do anything else. I realized later, like, why didn't I get anything? That's because I didn't have any call to actions. I just was giving away all this great free content. And I realized I wasn't sending people to my website. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. So you can't just content is great. Valuable content is awesome, but you got to help people find you and give them a reason to find you.
Well, man, I can tell you, I think the product market fit is also the reason why you just can't take it off the ground. Because like, if there's no demand, if you're just, I was living in my own dreams thinking that there is a market, and there was no market for that. And
Right.
people
That's
just wanted to take English lessons from me, which was offensive. I didn't want to associate myself, in a way, like maybe salespeople don't want to call themselves salespeople. I didn't want to be a teacher, especially with the Soviet Union past and, kind of heritage. Teacher doesn't have this sexy kind of vibe. And now I'm in a much better place. Recently I started, I think following your passion has got a lot of, and I'm curious to know about this particular point. What do you think? But I think that there's been so much misconceptions about following your passion that in fact you don't want to follow your passion. You want to get successful in something and fall in love with that. That's what our investors in the company that I started, that's what they were instilling into us, that you have to become successful in something that you don't like and then fall in love with your results. That was the entire mentality, And I was like, no, I don't want to hate myself coming to this big office, even though I'm in a high ranked position, and hate myself just to fall in love with what? With monetary result or materialistic stuff that I can buy. And I think that the way I was able to flip around my life, I decided that I was always super fascinated by video content. And I like in my university years, I started watching NBA basketball, and I became fanatic about NBA, and I started doing video clips, with basketball. And right now, I started this video production agency where we help podcasters. So, I started a podcast, and I realized that there's not that many video podcasts, online video podcasts that made with a real emphasis on ethics, cool transitions,
right.
Some like a lot of like where it's really amazing, beautiful piece of content that you do want to watch. And that was the motivation. Like I started doing this for myself, and then someone asked me, "Hey, can you do a podcast for me?" And I'm like, "All right, this is an idea." So right now we're helping people to create like online video podcasts and use this content in order to drive interest towards their personal brand. But this is just to illustrate that I think that finally I found something that, number one, has got a demand. There's a market for this. People do need a video product. They do need video content to be published and on their YouTube. Secondly, right. It goes in the line with my passion. And thirdly, I'm able to make some money out of it because just romanticizing what you do, saying that it's so awesome and beautiful and helps the world to become better, but not getting paid for it, just doesn't make any sense for me. So I don't know what can you tell me about following your passion? Do you think it's been a cliche? Do you think when people choosing what they need to do in life has to do with their inherited passion, or you always have to take into consideration other factors?
Well, it's an interesting question because you hear that a lot. It's definitely been played up where follow your passion. But what if your passion is, collecting, model trains? That's not going to make you any money. So that passion is a hobby. Do you have fishing. A passion? Yeah. Do you have a passion that could make you money? That would be the question. Do you have a passion that is monetizable? Can you actually take something that you love and make money from it? Can it be a business? And if it can't, then that passion doesn't become a business. That passion becomes something that you just like to do on the side, like riding a bike or golfing or whatever. Those are passions as well. But if you have an idea that's going to change the world, if you have an idea that's going to help people, anything that solves a problem is going to be able to be monetized if you do it the right way. So for me, my tagline is changing the world of sales one team at a time. So my advice would be, yes, follow your passion, but there's different types of passions. So if you have an idea that is going to help people and solve a problem and you're passionate about it, that's what you can turn into making money. But if you don't, if you don't have anything that falls into that category, then try to find something that you at least enjoy to make money. But I really haven't met anyone that doesn't have some sort of passion that could help someone with something. It's just a matter of realizing what it is.
But you can always, like, even if you're collecting stamps or something, like I have a friend.
People collect
I don't know.
Stamps and baseball cards and make money that way too. So, but there's a lot that goes into it, put it that way. Let's
go back to the two things that the person can control: attitude and effort.
Yes.
So effort is understandable. Like I go 110% when I'm looking for new customers right now. I'm not trying to sell. I'm just trying to help, and I'm trying to generate value for people. And somewhere down the road, someone might want me to help them with what I do. All right. What about an attitude? It's like a healthy understanding that nothing happens overnight. Can you elaborate more on the attitude part?
Yeah. I mean, you can control your attitude. You can choose your attitude. Many people don't. Many people let outside factors choose their attitude or form their attitude, but you can actually choose what attitude you have. You know, I can't control how you're going to react to something I say, but the only thing I can control is how I react to it. How am I going to choose someone telling me no on a sales call? Am I going to choose to be angry? Am I going to choose to be self-reflective? Am I going to choose to be I don't care attitude? Or how's your attitude going into the sales call? Let's say it's the 5th sales call of the day. You could have an attitude like, oh my God, it's my 5th sales call. Or I'm going to choose to be upbeat and I'm going to choose to have a smile and I'm going to choose to have this conversation go very well. Those are the choices you have. You have a choice every morning when you get out of bed to choose your attitude. Now, there's a lot of things that go into that, like your, mental duress and depression and stuff. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff, but if you don't have any of those things that are affecting you that way, I think the majority of people can choose their attitude. And it's not easy. I'm not saying this is an easy thing. It's easier. The human brain is wired to go toward negativity than it is to go toward positivity. So it's not an easy thing to do. But when you do it and you do it consistently, it gets easier. So that's what I'm saying about choosing your attitude.
Allan, to wrap up the coaching part, like the career of a coach segment, can you just reveal this secret for me personally? Like, because I didn't manage to get my coaching career to anywhere. But for you, did it happen gradually, or like at some point all the preceding effort that you were putting in was just paid off? Like, do you remember the time where you looked at your schedule and you saw, oh my God, I got this prospects just coming in and there's no end to them? At which point it happened?
So coaching, specific individual coaching, is sort of my, I guess if I had to put my offerings on rungs, it would be the 3rd rung down. I do it, but I get it from public speaking and I get it from team trainings. From those 2 main areas, those are my 2 main areas of expertise. I'm going to go to a conference.
Lead generation backup, lead generation
Correct.
Sources in a way, right?
Correct. So my number one thing is I want to go and do a talk or a workshop in front of 150 people in this industry. And then after that talk, I want 10 of them to come up to me and say, can you train my sales team? And then from there, I'll go train their sales teams. And then out of those sales teams, I'll get the manager or some of the top reps saying, can you train me individually? So that would be like the trickle down effect. I don't lead with individual coaching. I really don't. People contact me for individual coaching, but I've gotten to the point where I really enjoy doing it, but I can't, it's not very, it doesn't make me as much money as team coaching does and speaking does. So I really kind of relegate the individual coaching to executives at this point. But I'd much rather do a keynote and then go trainings from there. And then if I get some individual high-end coaching clients from there, I'll do it. But I don't go after coaching specifically.
I had Tammy Reese on my podcast. She is a product leader coach. So she worked with product managers and project managers. And her goal is to give a TED talk.
A TED talk,
and
yes.
I mean, you're so. I mean, I would want to give public speeches as well, but it also took you some time to get there. So I just want to understand what, like, can you tell me what served the foundation, or what just gave the birth to your public figure? Like, when did people start inviting you to give a speech and so on and so forth? After your book?
After the book, yeah. The book came out, and now, again, I've always enjoyed public speaking. I used to do trainings when I was selling windows, and prior to that, I would do speeches at within the sports world of college athletics. So I never shied away from it. I actually always enjoyed it. But when the book came out, that's when people started asking me hey, can you talk in front of the chamber? Can you do this for the Rotary Club? Can you do this for our evening dinner? So I would start getting these small speaking engagements, which I wasn't expecting. I just wrote the book to write the book because I love to write. I wasn't expecting much from the book, but then when the book did so well, that's when my world started opening up, and I realized that this could be my next path in my career. But the public speaking is, again, it's not an easy thing. You have to be diligent. You have to be following up. You have to be constantly going out there. And I'm hoping to get myself to a point where I do get a TED Talk, and I also get a point where I'll have an agent that says, here, we have Allan to book for you. But right now I'm not there yet. I'm close, but I'm not there yet. I still do quite a few talks, but I do it all on my own. But the talks lead to almost everything else. It's like that's the top of the mountain there. If you can do some talks, that will open up your lead funnel, and that will open up you'll get your contact lists and all of these things. And then people will talk about you as well as from a word of mouth standpoint.
What is it about the book that made people want to listen to you in person? Is it the ideas, or is it the way, the communication style that you convey within the book?
It's a great question, and I think it's both. I've got a lot of reviews, and people love my conversational style of how I wrote the book. I tell a lot of stories in the book. I don't talk at people. I just kind of come from a place of experience. This is what I did that works. This is what I would suggest. This is how I changed my sales career. But I also think, so the writing was easy. Many people say I read the book in 2 or 3 days. It was a very easy read. I love it. I still have it by my bedside. But I wrote the book in a way where you can just go into that book and look at the 7 different secrets and apply any one of them at any time that you want. So it becomes easy to use as a strategy or as a technique. You don't have to use all 7, obviously, but one day you're going to say, oh, I should be paying attention more to body language today, or I'm going to use social proof tomorrow. You're going to use these different things. And I think people really liked how easy it was to pick and choose these different strategies. And I also think so many people in sales for years have been caught up in, this is the process you have to follow. The challenger sale and this sale and that sale and all these different processes. People are sick of processes, including the customers who hear it. The second a customer hears that this could be a script or some sort of process or presentation that the rep is following, they shut down. So I tell people, I don't want you to follow a process. I want you to understand who you're speaking to and just pick and choose 1 or 2 of these strategies that is going to make them feel more comfortable to do business with you. That's the process. It's sort of a non-process, but it's a way to get the person much more comfortable to say yes than, like, you become the anti-salesperson rather than the person that they're expecting.
I think there's something about writing that really propels your speaking as well. Because I had Mark Harshberg on my podcast. I don't know if you heard about Mark. He also author of the book, The Career Toolkit. I kind of draw parallels between you and him because you both know when to stop. You have complete thoughts, and it's easy to have like a two-way street communication. I think writing helps, and I'm a writer. Also, I have a blog. I think it just helps us to patch up, to write thoughts in a complete way and just be able to make a full stop. Either it's on the paper or you're giving a verbal speech. Having a complete,
Yeah.
the ability to complete your thoughts is just a very, very powerful tool, I think.
100%. I mean, communication itself is a powerful tool, and I get concerned with all the AI stuff and all the non-human things that are out there that people are going to have. Yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in 10 years, but people are going to have a difficult time, or maybe not know how to communicate properly, because they're letting AI write their emails, and they're letting AI write their blog posts, and all of these things. And the people who know how to communicate, know how to do good copywriting, know how to write good copy, and know how to actually have a conversation are the people that are really going to be successful. If you rely on technology for 90% of what you're doing, you're going to put yourself in, you're going to pigeonhole yourself, and that may not be good.
What are your thoughts on AI? Do you think salespeople over the phone will become obsolete because we'll be replaced by these AI salesmen?
Over the phone sales, who knows? The cold calling already, to me, I mean, the cold callers of the world say cold calling is not dead, but so many people are not picking up their phones anymore. Really, I think email marketing will never be dead, but there's different ways to get to people now. But what I'm seeing with AI is there's so many interruptions now during the day, especially if you're on LinkedIn or on social media, that are AI generated, that I think salespeople could be missing good prospects because the prospects are so annoyed with the AI reaching out. Whereas if they reach out like a human being and maybe reach out to less people but have more value when they reach out, I think that would be much more important than, let me send out 500 AI, LinkedIn messages and hopefully I get 2 people to respond to me. I think that the people going forward that will be the most successful are the people who will continue to have the ability to communicate both written word and spoken word. And that sales, if they start using AI as a crutch to get to people, like we're inundated so much now, we're interrupted so much in our daily lives by these messages that are AI generated, especially on LinkedIn and social media. It's insane.
Man.
It just doesn't stop. And what I think could happen is, like, the salespeople could be missing some really good prospects because you're pissing the prospect off by sending him or her an AI message. If it were me, I'm not going to send an AI message. I'd rather send 10 really solid messages to some good prospects than 500 to, a toss in a barrel.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to piss off 500 people in hopes I get 2 conversations out of it. So I think the pendulum is way over here right now with AI, and hopefully, smarter minds prevail, and it'll come back to the middle where they'll realize that AI is an amazing tool in every aspect with writing and with creating images and stuff. But that's what it is. It's just another tool that can help you get better at what you're doing. But you got to still keep the human side of it, in my opinion, anyway.
I once heard an opinion, I think Simon Sinek said this, that you got to be multifunctional. Like, if you are a person of a mono profession, right? You have higher chances of getting replaced. Mm-hmm. And from this standpoint, like, learning new skills, and people don't even realize that some things in our life are actually skills, teachable skills. Mm-hmm. Some people even teach charisma. There are incredible industries now where you can actually hack something that we always consider to be like God-given talent, innate. You can teach to be likable.
Right.
You can teach to be fun. I don't know if you can teach to be funny, but I think that becoming multifunctional reduces the risk for us to be replaced. What do you think? What do you think about the risk, and if you were to give an advice to people who are afraid that they're gonna be replaced, they're gonna be laid off or something, what would you say they need to invest into?
Well, that depends on where they are, what they're doing now. Are they in a job that is just, very specific, like they're putting this widget into that opening and that's all they're doing? They better figure out that that's going to be replaced at some point. You're right. So is it a physical job? Is it a job that, are you a writer? Are you an administrative assistant? The more things you do to help the company move along, the harder it would be for them to get rid of you, like you said. But right now, I think the world of, let's just work 9 to 5, let's just do this and have a nice life. That people a lot more people are going to need side hustles. They're going to need side gigs. They're going to do things. People are looking at many more things to do that are going to make them happy, especially the younger generations coming up. People think they can be internet millionaires overnight. We know that's not true. So look into a lot of different things, figure out what you want to do. But you're right. If you're doing something that's replaceable, you need to increase your value at that company or find a company that's going to give you some different things to do so you have a lot of value there. That's kind of the best way I can answer that, I would think.
What's your take on the generation? I think it's Generation Z, or not even the millennials, but the newest generation, the youngest generation who live in TikTok, who consume the majority of their knowledge from TikTok. Mm-hmm. How do you hire people like that? How do you motivate people like that? Do you have an experience with youngsters under your wings in some shape or form? I'm interested to know. Well,
I have a 16-year-old daughter. I also have a 21-year-old daughter and a 23-year-old son. So two different, they're kind of in the same generation, but the 16-year-old is 5 years younger. And I've told them, and I tell my 16-year-old this all the time, I said, I think it's going to be easy for someone like you to be successful because you can separate yourself so easily from the generation that thinks I'm going to go online and I'm just going to get a job somewhere because they're entitled to it. If you work hard, you're likable, you have a good personality, and you can communicate, you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of your peers. And my daughter's like that right now. She already has 2 or 3 jobs and she's 16 years old. Her friends don't do that. Her friends sit home on TikTok and their parents give them money. And guess what? Who's going to be more successful? I'd say you're going to be more successful. You're going to be their boss in 10 years. So my advice to younger people is work hard. I mean, that advice never changes. If you work hard, you're going to be successful. There's no easy shortcut in life. There isn't. You might think there is. You might get lucky. You might be one of those people, 1 out of a million, that becomes an influencer and gets a sponsorship deal. But that's not the real world. There's 300 million people in the United States and 7 billion people in the world. There's only a very, very, very small percentage of where that stuff happens. But if you work hard and you show yourself that you're capable and you want to start a company and you want to do that, go and do it. You can do that now. There's never been a better time in our history, in human history, than to start a business than there is right now, simply because of the technology out there. But don't be lazy. That's just, don't be lazy. Just do it. Get out there and do it and fail. Keep failing. How many times did you fail? Fail again, because when you keep failing, that's when you'll be successful.
I think Scott Galloway once said that you have to estimate if you can be in the top 5% of a particular vertical. And if you can't, there's no point to bother at all. So you gotta, in addition to working hard, you have to really see if there's enough room for everybody. Yeah. And I think that was my mistake when I thought that I could be yet another coach. There's so many coaches right now. So everyone's the coach. That actually puts a negative spin on the entire industry. So I'm super lucky to be able to connect with you, Allan. We definitely have some shared experience, and I always love and adore, through my podcast to understand that regardless of where we come from, our backgrounds, the qualities, there's things that are universal, either our thirst to become like happy or successful or open-minded, not judgmental. I think one of the reviews on your site said that Allan, this is the Cheryl Truce, director of sales of the Chandler Newport. He said that Allan is not just a sales guy. He's not judgmental. He's open and makes you feel awesome about what you do. And I think this is just such a great way to end this segment, our podcast. Is there a final word that you want to leave our listeners with on this note?
I will say, well, I was very thankful when Cheryl sent that to me. She's an awesome person. But I will say that here's another quick piece of advice. If you do want to start your own business, one of the biggest mistakes that most business owners start is they don't really have a customer. They think they can sell to everybody. Have your niche, find your avatar, find your customer first. That's the first thing you need to do. I even made that mistake. I was like, oh, I'm a sales trainer. I'll just train every salesperson in the world. Doesn't work that way. Then you get no customers that way. So I would say if you're listening to this podcast, you're thinking about starting a business, you have an idea that you think is going to change the world, stop and say, who's going to buy it? Who's my customer? And then use that as your beacon, use that as your guiding light to your marketing and your writing and your website. Because if you're too generic, you won't sell anything. So that would be my parting advice.
And the customer might not be someone who you imagined to be, right? There's a lot of times people who buy, they might become so different. Like your ICP, ideal customer profile, might be and should be reconsidered, like as you go. Right?
As you go. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Man, that was so valuable. Thank you so much. And have a great day today.
All right. Thank you for having me on. And you have a great day as well.
You're looking for a quality video production provider? Look no further. My name is Sergey and I own Beverly Production. We are a video production agency from Ukraine. We help entrepreneurs to create credible online, offline podcasts and clips that drive interest, to promote your podcast. As a podcaster myself, I early realized that there are not that many podcasts that put an emphasis on quality and creativity, just making your videos look really, really cool. That's why we mix our videos up with different visual aids, sound effects, flashy transitions. We do dynamic switching and other cool creative things that just set apart your podcast from your competition. You can check our samples on the website, and we also help people to post the videos. So we take over YouTube management, and we can also run TikTok and LinkedIn for you. So if you're interested in something of this kind, don't hesitate to book a call with me. The contacts are available on the website. Thanks a lot.